Hey, Marianne, are you ready for part 2?
I sure am, and I found some things in our lower level of the Historical Society collection.
Ooh, let's get talking and finish up Prohibition.
Sounds good to me.
Buckle up. It's time for Kewanee Memory Lane, where we cruise down the 4 lanes of Kewanee history with a detour of fun uncovering the past, coming to you straight from the Kewanee Historical Society in the heart of downtown Kewanee. Here are your hosts, Marianne and Leanne.
Hi, I'm Leanne.
And I'm Marianne.
Welcome back to our next episode of Kewanee Memory Lane.
And Leanne is going to continue talking about Prohibition and, well, you see our props. We found some interesting things.
Yeah.
So
this is part 2. I hope you've all listened to part 1 of our Prohibition series. Hopefully we can wrap it up this time.
I don't know. There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. We did find a fast fact from Mr. Richards because God bless Mr. Richards. Mm-hmm. Here it says, the Home Ice Company purchased the Kewanee Brewing Company property on March 19, 1921. Home delivery began on Monday, March 21st. 100 pounds cost 80 cents. Coupon books were available for up to 1,000 pounds at 65 cents per 100 pounds. I can't even do that math. But anyway, the Kewanee Brewing Company was on North Main Street on the corner of 6th and Main.
Yep.
So it was. It is currently where the used car lot is.
Your approved auto sales.
That's where it is, and the building was torn down to build the original Napa store that went in there. But in 1921. 100 pounds of ice cost 80 cents.
Wow.
And that's probably what you shoved in one of those refrigerators that had the ice storage thing on top.
Ice box.
The ice box. Hey, you know. Anyway, we just thought that was a fun.
People collect those as antiques, the ice box.
Yeah.
Those are, me being in antique stores off and on, those are a hot commodity.
Right,
So,
yeah. Okay, so talking about Prohibition. So Prohibition is still going on, and it goes on until 1933 here in Kewanee. National Prohibition ended in 1932, and so after National Prohibition, then the city had to vote on it. So it took until the next year to have the vote in April. So
from 1914 to, so it was like a 19-year thing. No, I can't count.
Is that math? Let's see, 10, 12, and 6,
and 33.
18 years.
Yeah, something like that.
That's crazy.
A long time.
And in the rest of America, it was only 12 years.
Math wasn't my strong point.
English here.
Strong point, I could speak Spanish, help you with your other homework, but math, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't do math. I was promised there would be no math. Anyway, so lots of fun stories, what I consider fun stories about Prohibition. Mm-hmm. You know, at the time, it probably wasn't a lot of fun.
You know, I'm trying to think about if you put yourself back in time, we women, we wouldn't even have had a say because it was very male.
Right.
I'm not a male hater at all.
We did have the vote by then.
We did have the vote by then, and it was just very male dominated.
Yeah.
So we would have been, if we would have been at Cerno's, which was then maybe De Kaiser's by then, I don't know, we would have been upstairs, not in the main bar.
Right.
You know, so just, I don't know, I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes. What would it have been like?
Well, and these people made their livelihood selling beer and whiskey and that sort of thing. And all of a sudden that's taken away. You know, at the stroke of midnight.
Right.
Or 10 o'clock. At the stroke of 10 o'clock in 1914, you could no longer sell liquor. And there was stories where people that night that Prohibition took effect in Kewanee, there were 1,000 extra people here watching. And that
you know, and I kind of wonder too, were they like lined up and trying to take an extra 6-pack to
no,
take home?
They were.
You know, I mean, really,
there was an article that said that a lot of the neighboring towns came to buy out.
What?
the saloons, and it says there was a lot of people from Galva. I'm not saying.
Come on. Just stick to your own. Anyway, there's only so much to go around, and I would imagine the people
Right.
that were here wanted that beer or whatever the liquor was for themselves. So
Right.
And,
Well,
and
people from other towns, we couldn't. We Kewaneeans couldn't purchase it because
Right.
you couldn't have it.
Right.
I wonder if you could take it out, right past the city limits and drink it.
Ooh. Well, just like that movie Footloose, that you go across
yes.
the town line, you can dance.
Yeah, you
but
can
inside,
right across those tracks. That's another township.
Hey, I bought my 6-pack. It's hidden in my trunk. But I go out on the Page Street extension. And
Yeah.
I don't do that. I'm just kidding.
But maybe you would have. I mean, if
yeah.
and most people didn't drink to get drunk. They just drank to loosen up a little bit and
Be a little social.
Yeah, and be social, a very social
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
and then what did those men have to do after work? I mean, go home and fix the roof? I don't know. Was their honeydew list finally made up? I don't know.
Oh, this guy I knew from church, his nickname was Peanuts, and I said to him, "How did you get the nickname?" Well, his dad, he'd get off from the shop, and he'd go to the Wooden Shoe, a bar that's no longer here on
right.
6th and Tremont there. And he had to go find his dad and bring him home for dinner, and he would eat all the peanuts out of the bowl on the bar. So the guys at the bar called him Peanuts. That's how he got his nickname.
There you go.
Just that wasn't back then, but
No.
just
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Interesting.
I think a lot of nicknames came out of bars.
Oh yeah.
So.
Gint.
But I just found some interesting stories about life during Prohibition and bootlegging and that sort of thing. And so I thought I'd go over some of those. So the first one I have here was from October 1930. Our police chief was J.D. Crumtinger?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Interesting fact, he and that Sheriff Nash that I mentioned the last time, they are the ones that got the confession of the Yoakum kidnapper. Do you know the story of the Yoakums in Galva?
No, I do not.
Okay, the Yoakums owned a bank.
Oh.
And they owned that big house. Do you know the big house?
The big house.
The big house. And that's in the middle.
Oh, is it kind of like on the northwest, and it's kind of back,
Yes,
and it's
yes,
gated?
yes,
oh
and it's
my
gated.
gosh, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they had a baby and he was kidnapped.
Oh no.
Yes. Well, the
Was it a legit kidnapping?
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Yeah, but they got him back and he was okay,
Okay,
and stuff like
okay.
that. I think. Don't hold me to that.
Might have
I
to
don't know.
do a
That
Galva
may be.
deep dive.
Yeah, we may have to do a road trip.
Road trip.
Anyway, so this sheriff and our chief of police got the confession from the kidnapper. But while Nash and those people were looking for the kidnappers of Earl Yoakum. Oh, I'm sorry. It was the banker guy that was kidnapped, not his son. Different place. Whatever. Doesn't pertain to our story.
Yeah, but interesting side fact.
Yes, they were federal officers. Johnson and Friedman slipped out of Peoria, paying a return visit to the White Front. The White Front was at 203 West 3rd Street, and it is now a parking lot for P&B. There was
So the place was called the White Front? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
and so
And this was like in 1930.
1930. In
Okay.
1930, the Earl Hotel was on Tremont at the corner.
Yeah.
And then there was little bars right behind it, and one of them was called the White Front.
Okay.
The White Front, 203 West 3rd, where they found 21 gallons of alleged alcohol, dice tables, and other gambling devices.
Oh, my.
And this is the fun part. It's one of those things I wish that this was. You could go look at this. In the room immediately back of the bar room proper, a chain was found running through the wall. In the hall adjoining the rooms was a similar chain. These formed trigger releases for a dumbwaiter drop. upon which was stored the liquid refreshments.
Oh.
Concrete formed the bottom of the waiter so that on the release of the trigger, the glass containers would be immediately destroyed.
Smart thinking.
Yeah. So quiet and clever were Johnson and Friedman that the operators of the place were unable to work their device.
Oof. So somehow they got word. And I wonder if there was somebody on the inside, kind of a snitch.
Oh, probably.
I don't know.
Yeah. The dumbwaiter and the adjoining rooms, the officers found 21 gallons of alleged alcohol.
It's funny how they're saying alleged.
Yeah.
But in the other articles, they're not saying
No,
alleged.
yeah. This is 1930. This is later.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah.
Now we're doing the whole innocent until proven guilty. In the basement of the place, they found first-class gambling layout with dice tables, card tables, and other gambling paraphernalia, various jugs, corks, coloring material.
Coloring material.
Well, they apparently they colored the liquor because it was clear when it came out. They colored it like a caramel color to make it look like whiskey usually looks. I don't know. I don't know, but I've read that often.
Okay.
Officers stated that they planned to blow the large safe in the front of the bar. They hoped by these means to establish the real ownership of the place.
So do you mean to tell me that the police could legally blow up somebody's safe? I mean...
What was that show?
Geraldo Rivera.
No.
No.
No, it wasn't Dragnet. It was not Mission Impossible. It was a movie about Al Capone and that famous sheriff. Kevin Costner played him.
Gosh, I can't.
You know who I'm talking about?
Perdition thing?
No.
No. I don't know. You want me to look it up real
What?
quick?
Untouchables from our live studio audience.
Thank
That's
you.
That's the one. Yeah. So that's what
I've never seen that.
Where the federal agents go in and do sting operations.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and maybe I should have been, but I'm looking at all the legalities here.
But you're looking at it from 2024.
I'm looking at it from 2024 and not 1930. So, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. We should find a lawyer, a historic lawyer.
Do we know a lawyer?
I
We know.
wonder if Dean Carew would look that up.
Ooh, maybe Dean Carew
Hey,
could
Dean Carew, if you're watching this.
Could you look up a few things for us?
Anyway, our next story is from January 7th, 1930.
Oh, Lord.
Whoopee girls sing the blues in jail cells. That's right. Crooning melodies floated through the iron gratings in the women's department of the city jail. There was a women's department in the city jail.
Really? Okay.
As the Vinson sisters, not really, known in police records as Leota Mitchell and Ruth Cowell, enlivened the Bastille with singing in the rain.
Okay.
But today they're singing in the snow. That's what it says. They're singing in the
Oh,
snow
I
as they
thought you meant 'cause
skidded
it
to their
snowed.
home. I love how they write. Because they skidded to their home at North Elm Street after 36 hours of confinement on drunkenness charges.
Oh, jeez.
Apparently, these two ladies were walking along 3rd Street and perhaps walking or stumbling.
But minding their own business.
Minding their own business. They weren't
Okay.
hurting nobody.
And this is again in
In
1930.
1930.
Okay.
They couldn't drink, much less women getting drunk, So they were located by Morris Bankston, city fireman, okay, who wanted to be a good Samaritan. So he
I'd say mind your business. Anyway, sorry.
well, really, he tried to be a good. He takes them now in 2024, it would be stranger danger. But anyway, this guy, he tried pulling the Merry Maids from the sidewalk into the city health office to shield them from the law until he could find somebody to take them home.
Okay, he was trying. I'll give him credit.
Yes, it didn't work.
Darn. Well, it was all connected there, that building, wasn't it? At 3rd and...
Yes.
It was...
The
were all
police
in-
department.
Yeah.
So according to the police docket, Captain Jack Davis, Captain Jack.
Captain
Isn't that
Jack.
kind of funny?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, had caught the inebriated lassies and was going to throw him in the hoosegow when Aladdin's lamp was brought into action, and presto, changeo, the girls disappeared.
I gotta say, I don't know who wrote this article, but it's so much of the terminology it's funny.
Yes. Into Aladdin's presto, changeo. Davis, a veteran of 20 years, was not to be outwitted, and a bit of classy sleuthing found them nestled in the dark confines of the city health office. So they took him to jail.
Booked him. And kept him for 30 hours?
36 hours.
Wow.
And apparently they sang the entire time.
The entire time. And they sang
Singing in the Rain.
I won't sing for you, but, now it's in my head.
Well, at the end it says, however, the girls were released today, and Desk Sergeant George Kime is elated over the release of the crooning sisters, who yesterday did much to disturb his ordinarily genial equilibrium.
They drove him crazy.
Yes.
They drove him crazy.
Serves them right. They were minding their own business.
Like, you don't know then after that they were just released, no,
there was no other. Yeah.
Just,
Well, this was not a Kewanee paper. This was, because it says Kewanee, Illinois. So I have a feeling it was Peoria paper. Peoria paper got a lot of press from Kewanee.
I'm trying to remember the reporter's name. He was stationed in Kewanee, but he was with the the Peoria Journal-Star.
I remember that. I don't remember his name.
It escapes me at the moment. I know it, Larry Locke, if he could tell me right now, but yeah.
Here is Mary Ann's favorite. Slipper full of whiskey found by police at home of bathing bootlegger. Stefana Van Eunuch was fined $100 in costs in the court of Justice J.B. Adams. Stefana Van Eunuch on East 7th Street was a victim of the police sponge squad Saturday.
What the heck is the sponge squad?
Saturday night when they found some beer and whiskey in her house. The police were entering the house when Mrs. Van Eunuch yelled through the door that she was undressed, taking a bath, and they should not come in.
That's right.
Policeman Dick Hamilton, undaunted, burst through the door to find her pouring whiskey from bottles down the drain. She had missed the drain in her haste, and some of the valuable liquor had been poured into her slipper, which she had off at the time. Hamilton grabbed the slipper full of whiskey and poured it back into the bottle for evidence. Incidentally, no water was found in the room for the pretend bath.
How did he know she wasn't bathing?
I don't know.
And it's just like when I was talking about the brick episode, Nick Germanovich, at one of his raids, he had so much booze and the police couldn't haul it all off, so they poisoned it so he couldn't use it.
Rude.
I know, right? Jeez. Dang.
This is a very interesting story. It's also horribly sad.
I didn't mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's just sad. John Crean and Tony Sienkiewicz dead after terrible stuffing. That too. Terrible suffering.
It's not funny. I'm sorry. I just,
Well, the dead, Tony Sienkiewicz and John Crean. In serious condition at the hospital was Mike Posnick. Seriously ill at home was George Posnick, Sam Sienkiewicz, and Tony Kauska. So basically what happened was they got together and said, hey, let's have a booze party. And this was in 1919. Mm-hmm. Just come over and we'll just have some.
We're just friends having a drink.
Yeah,
No big deal.
And so the wife came home. The wife says she went uptown at 8 o'clock at night and came home at 10 o'clock. I don't know what she was doing. But anyway.
That's a little suspicious.
Yeah, that's a little
suspicious. For a woman in 1919, go uptown for 2 hours late at night.
But
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what she said. And when she came home,
she went to the grocery store.
At 8 o'clock at night. At 8 o'clock at night. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, she comes home and her husband is lying on the floor or bed or something. He wasn't dead yet.
He wasn't dead yet. Okay.
So she calls the two physicians, called the doctor, and the doctor said, anyway, came over and...
That's when they made house calls.
Yes. They need to rush him to the hospital. While they're they give him a the stuff that you put in your heart to amphetamine. Was it an amphetamine that they? Well, anyway, they gave him an injection to make him wake up, and he did. And so they threw him into the second doctor had a touring car, so they threw him in there. While that's happening, one of the other man, Tony Sienkiewicz, was not ill when the doctors arrived, but a few seconds later, he explained he wasn't feeling well. The physician said, "Can't help you right now. Get in the car. We're going to the hospital." So they go there. They're both dead.
Ugh.
So now we've had this party, and there's 2 dead people. So there was testimony from the doctors, and they had
I'm sure
an
they asked the
inquest. Yes.
wife about
So
it
this,
too.
and they were a Russian family. They had immigrated,
Okay.
and so she did this through an interpreter. My name is Sophie Crean. I live at 612 East 7th Street. Lived 9 years in Kewanee. Husband's name, John Crean. His occupation was a laborer at Walworth. He was 36 years old.
Oh, wow.
Born in Russia. He had been in America 15 years. We have 3 children. Nick, Mike, and Harry. There were 3 boarders. Tony Sienkiewicz, George Posnick, and Mike Posnick. He did not keep liquor in the house after the town went dry. While it was uptown Saturday, Tony Sienkiewicz, John Crean, George Posnick, and Mike Posnick bought a half-gallon of alcohol. The first 2 of these are now dead. Mike Posnick is in St. Francis Hospital. George Posnick is at my home. Tony, George, and Mike were my boarders. They were drinking from 8 p.m. Saturday until 1 a.m. Sunday. Besides the 4 mentioned, there was my father, Sam Sienkiewicz, and Tony, who lived at 609 East 8th. We had supper at 6 o'clock Saturday, having sauerkraut, soup, meat, etc. I went to town at 7 o'clock Saturday and came back at 10. They were all drinking at that time. Tony left for home soon after I returned. They told me that they had started drinking at 8.
Wow.
Tony Sienkiewicz said that they chipped in and paid $20 for a half gallon of alcohol.
That was a lot back then.
Yeah. So, all this happens, blah, blah, blah.
And her husband's deceased.
And she's got 3 kids at home. And now her living is gone, too.
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah.
worked at Walworth.
Yeah.
And she is unable to give a clear statement. So she was rushed to the hospital.
Oh, no.
And so was her dad. So it was found out that she was also drinking the stuff.
Oh.
But her and her dad mixed stuff into it. Apparently,
At one point, because they buy it after she left the house, or?
yes, right. So apparently people, especially Russian immigrants, put certain spices in it to make it
Okay.
taste better.
Okay.
And apparently it was diluted enough that she didn't get deathly sick.
Okay.
And her dad didn't get deathly sick.
Okay.
So, but she was unable, she was, distraught by that point. And then it takes another victim. The dead are John Crean, Mike Posnick, Tony Sienkiewicz, and Tony Kaska. And so they still don't know what happened. The doctors think that it is acute alcohol poisoning. So then the last part of this, December 22nd, 1919, wife of dead man tells of alcohol purchase. So it comes to light. And this is very sad, but this is what happens
Well,
sometimes.
I'm just imagining, like being in her shoes, being a young mother, and your husband's gone, and
Right.
Yeah,
and not being from this country, don't want to get in trouble, knows they're breaking the law. So Sam Etshokin, how do we just Etshokon, Etshokin, Ken, a well-known businessman of Kewanee, has been brought into connection with last Saturday night's affair, which resulted in the death of 4 men. This turn was given to the death party affair yesterday afternoon when City Attorney Mulligan, accompanied by Chief of Police J.C. Ashley, Assistant Chief Charles Maynard, and an interpreter, went to St. Francis and secured a confession from Mrs. Sophie Crean, whose husband, John Crean, was the first of the 4 to succumb to the deadly liquid refreshments that were served at a party Saturday night. So what had happened, she finally said that she went and bought the stuff. Mrs. Crean, therefore, decided to make a confession, first saying that she felt bad about the affair and she wanted to tell the truth. In her opinion, the people of Kewanee were entitled to know the truth, and she frankly admitted up to this time that she had not been telling the truth. And now it was time to tell the truth. She went on to relate how she had gone to the store of Sam Shokin on Northeast Street last Friday for the purpose of buying some tea and coffee. While waiting upon her, she asked if they had any good whiskey for Christmas, adding that he said he had some. And then they chipped in and went and got it, where they laid down $80 for what they were given 2 gallons of alcohol.
$80?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So this stuff was 180 proof.
Wow.
And you were supposed to cut it, but they didn't. And so that's what happened.
This is a really sad story.
That is a really sad story.
I don't think anybody's intent, to just... So it was kind of poisoned from the spices? Or
No. It was just pure alcohol.
Pure and not diluted.
And they drank a lot of it.
That was just so sad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the story didn't come out right away because I'm sure she had some guilt there, making that connection with that man, and that's awful.
Yeah. And so, the
I wonder whatever happened to her and her kids.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look that up. She did have her father, so I don't know if he was still working.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe everything was okay. Here's another one. So the White Front Tavern, which we had talked about, this is in 1930. They're 213 and a half West 3rd is also 213 and a half Windsor Court. And we had discussed this in a previous episode that Windsor Court is no longer there, and it was basically the backs of all the bars where you went into a speakeasy. So this article, it was about how when they came and closed down a place, you weren't able to go back in there for a year. Nobody could go. No, that building could not be used for a year. Yeah. Okay. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? And who monitored this?
I don't know.
Oh.
Let's see.
Again, I'm looking at legalities.
Yeah. Otherwise known as a U.S. permanent injunction, found it was issued in October term versus Charles DeLathauer and Clyde Merritt. That's who owned the White Front. And let's see. The owners or any persons from using or occupying the first floor for 1 year of the date of the order.
First floor?
Yes, because that's where the White Front was. So I think above there was apartments or something.
Okay.
And in the back, there was another. At this point, I don't think it was anything. I think it was a soft drink place.
Okay.
We'll say. But the doors for a soft drink parlor or anything could only be you could only gain access from 3rd Street and Chestnut Street. You could not enter a establishment from any other street.
So like Cerno's now, they have a front door and a back door you could come in. So what I'm hearing you say is back then you couldn't have done that. You could only come in that front door.
So what it says here, in the rear of the White, the Dewdrop Inn was and a barber shop was located in the back.
The Dewdrop Inn, I forgot, yeah.
And a third in the rear of the White Front. To comply with the ordinance demanding the saloons face either 3rd or Chestnut, a vestibule was built running back to the saloon in the alley. Isn't that interesting? I just thought that was interesting.
Very interesting.
Anyway, hey, does everybody want to know what happened to Gint Hippard?
I do.
Well, okay, I gotta find my notes. Okay, so in 1933, Prohibition ends in Kewanee, and It ends June 6, 1933 is when the vote was taken. Well, it was taken the day before. So Kewanee goes Democratic, Wethersfield stays Republican. Wethersfield wanted to stay dry. Kewanee wanted to be
not
wet.
dry.
Yes. So Kewanee vote repeal wet. So wanted to be wet 2,433 votes. Dry was 931. In Wethersfield, 215 wet, 225 dry. So
that was close.
Yeah,
That was close.
And Henry County was overwhelmingly 5,000 to 3,500 wet. So, and then by August of 33, there were 12 beer parlors in the business district.
Wow.
That's just, and I think that they took down the whole.
Wow.
Wow. So after Prohibition, we find Gint bartending and owning established with his friend Paul Addis. The 77 Club at 206 North Chestnut, which is currently Sporty's. I think is that still Sporty's?
Yeah, and I remember looking that up because somebody else, I think, took that over later. But yes, 77
Yeah, 77 Club. And 77 was the number of the Galloping Ghost of U of I. That's why it was called the 77 Club.
Really?
And in 1942, he was managing the main hotel in Galesburg.
He was busy.
Yeah. In 43, he opens the Pig Packaged Liquor Store at 207.5 West 3rd, which would be on Windsor Court. Mm-hmm. And he is doing that with both Addises, Ira Addis and John Paul Addis. Mm. And then in 1947, he is working in the United Smoke Shop, which was owned by Johnny, his brother, and Paul Addis.
Do you know where the United Smoke Shop was?
I forget.
I can't remember either.
I think it was on 3rd Street.
Okay.
Okay. In 49, he buys the White Front. And then in 1952, he owns his own place at 206 North Chestnut.
Okay.
And I think it was called Gint's Place. I'm not quite sure about that. And in 1955, he retires. And there was a big article about him retiring and what his life was. That's the picture we always see of him with the cigar hanging out of his mouth.
Big cigar hanging out of the side of his mouth.
And then in 1959, he passes away.
Okay.
So from 1915 to 1955, 40 years in the business. That is a long stretch.
You know, and
illegal.
I mean, it sounds like he had friends in Galesburg, Rock Island, you know, kind of all parts. And I know when I talked about the brick, he was often in there. Was seen as a friend.
Right.
Though they called him another name.
Whatever.
But, yeah. Whatever.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Wow. So that's lots more. There's lots more stories and stuff.
Lots more to find here at the museum.
Yes, especially on Prohibition. I don't think I went through half of what I had gathered, but
I do want to mention our museum website, Kewanee-history.com.
A lot of things can be found on there. Pictures of downtown through all stages. Mm-hmm. All of our city directories are scanned and available on the Documents tab at our website. That is a really helpful one.
And the museum's Facebook page is Kewanee Nostalgia.
It's a group. You have to answer the questions to join, but if you have any...
You have to have a connection to Kewanee.
You have to have a connection to Kewanee. But we're always welcome... We always welcome you to ask us questions at Facebook on KewaneeMemoryLane, or our... email address is KewaneeMemoryLane@gmail.com.
Thanks for tuning in with us again, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.
See you at the museum.
Thanks for cruising with us today. We hope you enjoyed the show, and you'll join us for our next cruise down Kewanee Memory Lane.